All right, well, this is the home stretch. Veronica's still here, thankfully, and Avi Moscovich is joining us. Avi, great to meet you. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we're talking about the InnovationTO meetup. Is that right?
That's right.
So, okay, so did you start this meetup?
Yes, me and two other friends.
Okay.
We started an InnovationTO meetup. Innovation can be done in different manners. There's a lot of talk about startups in the city, but the other side of a startup are people in large companies. So the focus of our meetup is to help innovators in large companies. It's a different, you need a different set of tools. You have different challenges when you have a large company with the politics and
That's true.
the corporate environment. How do you come up with new ideas? How you get them implemented? So that's what the focus of our meetup is, to enable and enhance and give tools to those people that work in large companies. They have ideas, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to.
Yeah, isn't there a word for that? Is it intrapreneur or something
Entrepreneur.
like that? Yeah.
Entrepreneur, yeah. According to entrepreneur, which
It's
is
an
a startup.
entrepreneur.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Now, I know Veronica doesn't have a lot of time. Veronica, I want you to get all your questions out before we get into
you know,
it.
it's really interesting because I worked at General Motors in Oshawa from 19 until 29, and they had, like when you had ideas, they actually gave you bonuses, and there were like programs that they had scheduled throughout the year where you could actually, you know, submit your idea or how to save money and things like that. And if it was implemented, you were very nicely rewarded. It was interesting.
Oh.
But I don't
Were
think they
you
have that anymore in companies.
Were you able to help make that test or make that happen, or you just submitting ideas?
Well, for myself, I always try to run everything, so they didn't like that. It was very chauvinistic back when I was 19. They didn't have sexual harassment back then, so I just submitted my idea. So to answer your question as tactfully as I can.
Right.
But I think this is great because I think that's been lost, you know, to help innovate people with their ideas and what to do with them.
Everybody thinks it's a good idea, then they put out a suggestion box, right?
Oh yeah, I remember
Right.
that.
And
the
people put all their
suggestion box.
suggestions in, and then once a month they open it up and dump it into the trash and
Oh,
put it back on the shelf
I think that's
until
fascinating.
everybody just gives up.
I think the suggestion box should come back.
So right now what we see that a lot of companies, because there's a lot of competition and you have to differentiate yourself and you have to move quick, and there's so many ideas out there, what they do is they create innovation labs, which are small teams that they don't care. They are not dependent on what's called the P&L. So they are not. They don't have to sell anything. They don't have to make money to the company in the current quarter. What they do is to take ideas and they try to build it so they can be tested in a rapid manner.
Right. In other words, they're freed from the existing constraints of the
That's
business. Right. And I mean, I think a company is very wise to do that sort of thing, because when you think about it, to me, the greatest resource of a company is its collective brain power. Right.
Yeah.
But if a company fails to take advantage of that because of its own inertia, because of its bureaucracy, then in the long run, it's just it's actually cutting itself off from competitiveness in the marketplace.
Think about it. So you submitted ideas,
Yeah.
right? But you didn't know what happened with them.
Oh no,
So-
we were told actually.
Oh, so you were told.
Yeah.
So there's so many ideas out there,
Yeah.
and the business lines, they are focused on their job. They have to
Yeah.
do the sales. They have
That's true.
to operate the company. They don't always have time to test new ideas, and there's so many out there. So if you have an innovation lab or innovation team that dedicated to do that, they can build what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product, which is a smaller, stripped down version of a product or an offer, and you can test that in the market and see if it's worth it And then if it's worth it and people are liking it and you see a good value to it, then you can go and take it to the business side and say, hey, you should put that into place. You should start selling that because it has potential value. So in order to get people enabled and able to come up with ideas and to pitch those in large organization, that's what we're trying to focus in our meetup.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you started this with a couple of associates or
Friends, yes.
friends.
Right. Yeah.
And what was your motivation? Were you guys working in large organizations and frustrated by your inability to contribute all that you could?
Sort of. What happened is that I co-founded an innovation lab at a large energy group, and my friends Ritesh Shah and Armando Olivier, they are also in that space, but on a CPG, consumer packaged products side. And we know each other from the industry, and by talking to each other, we found out that a lot of the meetups in the city, and there's a growing number of meetups on technical side, on business side. Shout out to TechTO and their.
Well, there's so many. There's startup meetups.
That's right.
Probably a bunch of innovation meetups. Even.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're all focused on the entrepreneurs and
Right.
the small startup. They want to disrupt companies, but there's nothing that talks to the people that are, working on a day-to-day, working every day in a large company.
Within companies.
And they don't have the tools or the ideas on how to.
Or maybe they haven't even thought of that.
That's true. Maybe
Right.
you just have ideas and you just don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So what do you do then?
Right.
So that's our meetup, is to give you some idea and tools. There's actual resources that you can go and you can analyze, and you can that will help you to maybe get your point across.
Now, so how often do you actually meet physically? And
Yeah. So we have a meetup. The last one was last week on Thursday at Shopify headquarters up Spadina and College, and we run this meetup monthly. And typically we have a guest speaker that comes in. We do some Q&A with the guest speaker, then some networking, questions from the crowd. And we give every meetup, we have one resource that we share from our experience, maybe a spreadsheet or some sort of a document that help people with getting their ideas forward.
So in other words, they show up to the meetup, they're going to have a great takeaway that's going to give them
Right.
immediate value.
That's right. Plus pizza and drinks.
That's the.
That's the key
I'm not
one.
saying that's the most important, but you had me at pizza and drinks.
Yeah.
Now, I'm almost thinking that, for this kind of meetup, I'm almost thinking that forward-thinking companies out there would almost want to embrace what you guys are doing, because I really think that companies, if they can realize that they've got so many great things that are possible just from people that are already working for those companies.
Yeah.
But because I think part of it too is companies don't know how to implement this within their companies either. It's not just a problem of the entrepreneur, the individual, but also
Right.
the companies as a whole. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think that CEOs and leaders in companies have to understand where they operate and if there's chances and risks, and they have to innovate, and they know they have to innovate. So there are many models that you can do it. You can have consultants coming from outside to help you facilitate innovation, or you can build that in within. It's very important to build that. So if you look at from the top, it has to have sponsorship and support from the executive team. So they have to sponsor that. They have to understand that not everything is about making money now. It's about staying in business, because if another startup comes in and disrupt your industry, you might be gone
Well,
in the next 5
especially
years.
these days, right?
That's right.
Because
That's right.
we've seen huge companies that have been around for decades,
That's right.
like pretty much obsolesced overnight by a startup of 12,
That's right.
20-year-olds
Yeah.
working in a garage,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, the potential risks are probably bigger than ever.
That's right.
But on the other hand, companies can turn around on a dime too. Like I think, what was it with Twitter? They originally it was meant for a completely different application.
Oh,
and
so
then
they can pivot.
They just did a big pivot, and then they had success
Yeah.
finally.
I think Airbnb was also, I think they started as something and then they pivoted as well.
Yeah.
Larger companies is much harder to do.
But I mean, if they don't, like Kodak,
That's right.
right?
To Kodaks, yeah, for sure. I mean, they're coming back a little bit now, but
They paid a
there are
big
many
price.
examples out there
Yeah.
that companies that missed the train
Yeah.
on that. What I was about to say is that you have to connect it support from above, but you also have to have the pipes from below. So you have to build those pipes for feedback from the people on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a call center and people on the phone, those I have questions because they are talking to customers all the time. They are your front line.
Exactly, right? And
or-
so often I've seen it in organizations where
Right.
they're just not, they think the customer service person is the lowest status in the organization, but they're the ones that are actually talking to the customers every day, but the company's not listening.
Yeah. So that or salespeople. So
Yeah.
you got to go out. You got to build those what I call feedback pipes back up, and go out proactively to all the troops on the ground to see if ideas come from them. So it's an interesting position within a company. So there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of ability to influence and to go out to different aspects of the company and kind of observe from the side and see is there anything in the process that can be changed, tweaked. Innovation doesn't have to be a big startup that can disrupt everything. It could be a small, minor change that would have big results.
Huge, yeah. So, I mean, for example, I'm just thinking maybe somebody watching out there, a potential entrepreneur, they're working with an organization, maybe they're frustrated that the organization is just kind of set in their ways,
Right.
And that does happen
Often.
a lot.
Yeah.
So now, do you guys? You're mentioning you're trying to provide tools, right? You're giving a very practical takeaway every meetup. But I mean, is there? I mean, what would you, in your experience doing this, is there always a way for an entrepreneur to somehow make a difference, or are some companies just so entrenched that it's almost hopeless?
It really depends on the DNA of the company.
Yeah.
I think there are ways to do it. For example, the latest resource that we gave out, that we shared with the group on Thursday, was 11 barriers for innovation and what to do about them. So it's literally a spreadsheet with a list. You can actually go to our Meetup group on Meetup InnovationTO and download that. So it's actually a spreadsheet that goes in, tells you what are typical symptoms for barriers of innovation and what you can do about it. So it's a great resource. Maybe it will get your mind a little bit straight about what can be done. But ultimately, if your organization is set in your ways and it doesn't fit, the culture doesn't fit to your personality, maybe that's not the right fit for you.
Right.
But I believe that most of the time there is a way. There is a way.
And
It's a way to, quantify it.
Right, and and there's probably a lot of people watching this. I mean, really, anybody working in any large organization, no matter what role they're in, they can actually potentially be an entrepreneur, right?
Right. It really depends on how you present it to your boss, right? If for example, two examples. If your boss is interested in cool stuff, and you come up with idea that will help increase efficiency or benefit the company in a certain way, maybe he'll be open for that. Or if it's a company that's very focused on money, you have to quantify your idea into what are the savings or what is the dollar value to that. You have to make that adjustment in order to sell it to the people that can actually make it happen.
It probably depends on the company, on yourself, on your boss, so many
Right.
different factors. You
Right.
probably have to approach every instance
Right.
with as many tools as you can, and I mean that's what it sounds like you guys are providing. Now you do this what, every month?
Yes, we do that monthly.
And what is it? The
InnovationTO.
no, right, but
Oh.
I mean, is it the it's on always on a Thursday?
Typically, it's on a Thursday evening.
Okay, always. What is it? The first or the second Thursday? Or how do you?
Typically, the third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
And we're flexible because if we are being hosted by a company downtown and they need to adjust the time, so we are flexible in that. You can go to our Meetup page and see where the next one is. I think it's October 25th is the next one.
Okay, and we're up at Shopify.
So the latest one was in Shopify. We haven't decided on a location for the
I
next
see.
one, but we'll update that.
Of course, you announced that
Sure.
on the Meetup
Yes.
group. And how many people do you have in the group currently?
It's about 550
Yeah.
right now, something
So
like
good.
that.
And how many do you usually get turning out?
The latest one was about 15 to 20.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get more awareness and
Yeah.
get more people involved. So thanks for having me here to kind of promote that
Yeah, it's
out to
great.
the community.
Yeah.
And if you come and you can see people that are like-minded,
Yeah.
it will help you out. Will get your ideas going.
Very cool. So, of course, anybody out there that thinks they're like an entrepreneur within an organization, it sounds like the perfect thing to do. And it
Yeah.
actually sounds like fun,
Yeah, it
besides
is.
being rewarding and worthwhile, right?
It's fun helping people.
Yeah.
Right?
Plus, you
And
get the
exchange-
pizza.
Yeah,
And the
exchange-
drinks.
and exchange ideas. Yeah.
I don't know if they're alcoholic drinks or not. But
Well, for now it's it's a soda, but
yeah, yeah. Well, these things evolve. So
Yeah.
anyway, Avi, great to meet you. Great to hear that there's an organization like this in Toronto. And as you mentioned, people can go to the Meetup, meetup.com/InnovationTO, I think, right?
That's right, yeah.
Or look up InnovationTO
Yeah,
on
just-
meetup.com.
that's right.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for doing this. Great
Thanks
to
for having
hear
me.
about this.
Thanks for having me.
And I think that's it for the show today.
All right.
You are our last guest of the show. So thanks for
Okay.
coming in.
All right. Thanks.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time for more Liquid Lunch here on thatchannel.com.